What is going on, everybody? We are here. It is Championship Sunday. It's going to be a crazy day. We're kicking things off with the Grand Finals preview show. I am Rockerman, the director of Nemesis, and your host for today's pre-show. Super excited to get things going. I'm going to introduce the cast of the guys we got here. First off, we got Season 1 Rival League Champion and Advisory League Cooking Bagels. What's going on, Bagels?
Hey, you know what? I'm doing good. I'm not winning this season because I'm out. But hopefully we'll have some great matches for everybody. And lastly, no sweeps allowed, please.
No sweeps allowed. I sure hope we don't see any sweeps. That would be not good for the content's sake. But we'll have to see. And we're also joined by a good member from my org, CMoney. CMoney, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Besides the fact that I'm still in Saturday and you said Sunday, and also, I'm the least accomplished member of the pre-show. Let's go.
we were struggling to get some things out there for CMoney, but we got it. We figured it out. It is Saturday, actually. Got a little bit confused, but it is Saturday here. And then lastly, we got Season 1 of Prospect League MVP, Blazing Biscut. How's it going, Biscut?
I'm doing swell, Rocker, man. Thank you.
That's good to hear. So tonight on this pre-show, we're going to kind of recap a little bit from Season 2. And Season 2's been a little bit crazy. Season 2's been it's been a long, nearly 3 months. A lot has happened in Nemesis since then. We expanded from 8 teams last season. We only had Rival, Challenger, and Prospect. We expanded to the Titan League for this season. That was definitely a crazy expansion, and you guys' support has been insane throughout the entirety of this. So we appreciate you guys so much for sticking in and tuning around with us. And but quickly before I keep going, I got to give a quick shout out to Con Ladon for the 4-month sub. Thank you, Con, for that. But yeah, Season 2's been wild. There are a lot of great matchups, a lot of dominating teams again this season, and we'll kind of talk about it a little bit later as we go through. But there were a lot of dominating teams throughout Season 2. So basically, tonight we're going to go through each league, kind of give you guys a little bit of preview, talk about each team, kind of talk about their run to get to this point, and then we're going to preview each matchup and make our predictions for tonight's action. So it should be good. And yeah, let's kick things off with the Titan League here. Obviously, our Titan League matchup is going to be Venganza versus Nebula, and this matchup should be a good one here. I'm going to have Biscut here talk to us first. He's going to give a little bit of recap about Nebula's season review. Biscut, how was Nebula's season leading up to the finals here?
Well, Nebula tore up the season with a solid 9-5 record. They actually ended up winning the Eastern Conference and the second seed on the last day of the regular season. So they got that clutch DNA. They had different lineups throughout the season. They were switching around a lot. So to make it work when you're moving around is super impressive. But they only beat one of the playoff teams during regular season, being Pinnacle. So that's all I really know. I'm not a big Titan fan, I won't lie to you, but that's because I'm a Challenger scrub.
That's all right. Well, maybe Bagels can give a little bit about Nebula. I know you played a little bit against Nebula throughout the regular season and even in the playoffs here. So, Bagels, what can you tell us about Nebula, and then maybe getting into Venganza?
First of all, rip Pinnacle. Second of all, yeah, their lineup is super interchangeable. You could put in any 4 of their players and they could be a solid lineup. But what I have noticed, like Biscut mentioned, they only were able to beat us once in the regular season, the only playoff team, and that was in a reverse sweep. So really it shouldn't have happened, but it did. And what I can say in playoffs, though, is that Smoove has been their carry. He's been the guy to kind of just put everything together. But unfortunately for them, I don't think he's going to be playing in the matchup. So I think Venganza will probably be much better off with that. And speaking of Venganza, for their season in review, they kind of had a little bit of a tumultuous road, but ended up with a great record as well. They started out with H, who was a good 2K player, but they just didn't have the chemistry with him, and ultimately ended up switching halfway through the season to 4, who was a friend of Sky's, and it's been the meme team ever since. And the meme team has looked really good, and they just have a speedy and shot-heavy play style with 4.
Yeah, I would have to agree there. Venganza, they've been on the come up. I know, at the beginning of the season, it seemed like, okay, maybe they're a playoff contender, maybe not with H on their team. And then, like you talked about, they grabbed four, and four's made a huge impact for their team. And they're going to be looking like a team to beat now that they're in the grand finals here. But let's have CMoney talk about. We got to the playoffs here. So CMoney, how did the playoff runs go for each of these two teams?
Actually kind of crazy because Venganza took their first win over Nebula. So, but that was a Game 7 win. And then they went on to take down the number 1 of Grandmasters in a 4-2. So, good on them for that. But then Nebula's run here, obviously starting with that loss there to Venganza, came back and took a 4-2 over Pinnacle, which second time they, beat Pinnacle. Congrats on them there. And then they took it to Game 7 over the number 1 seed as well to win that against the Grandmasters, and probably going to give them a little bit of momentum for tonight, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're definitely looking good here. And I mean, Nebula, they made a comeback. We'll have to see how they're going to do in this matchup. But yeah, it should be interesting. That matchup is going to get going tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Eastern here. It's a special matchup for Sunday, so stay tuned for tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be taking that matchup, followed by a live weekend review. So that's also going to be entertaining. We're going to recap the entirety of the playoffs immediately following that matchup tomorrow. So Venganza Nebula starting up tomorrow. But let's actually get into predictions here. And Bagels, I'm going to start with you. Who do you got in this matchup, Venganza versus Nebula tomorrow?
Like I mentioned, I don't believe they're going to be playing with Smooth, who has been their hard carry in playoffs. He's just been that mechanical guy and the most consistent of the bunch. So without him, or with him, they almost beat Venganza in a Game 7 series, and actually on screen you can see that great Game 4 overtime that ended with Smooth's goal. But without him, I just don't think they're going to come in as hot, and I'm going to put Venganza 4-2 over Nebula.
All right, so Bagels going with Venganza. CMoney, who are you taking?
Me, with my super limited knowledge, voted in the favor of content. I'm going with the bracket reset out here, Rockerman. And after the bracket reset, because I think that one's probably going to be a closer series, probably game 6 or 7. But after the bracket reset, I think there's going to be a little hype going for Nebula, and I think they're going to clutch that one up and take it in 6, maybe 5. But I'm going to put 6 as my prediction.
All right. CMoney's going with Nebula here in the bracket reset. Interesting choice there. And Biscuit, who do you got in this one, Venganza or Nebula?
Pressure for bracket reset.
Well, you see, I know Rockerman's a fan of his script, and I think he's going to make the content as good as he can with only one series on Saturday. So I'm thinking there's going to be a bracket reset, and Venganza takes in 7 in the reset, just for all the maximum content.
Okay, maximum content. I love it. That's what I'd love to see. And then last but not least, my prediction here for this one, as much as you guys love content, I would love to see that happen, but the competitive side in me wants me to take Venganza here for all the reasons that Bagels talked about earlier. No bracket reset. I'm taking Venganza in this one, 4-2. I think they're going to pull it out and become the season 1 champions, taking home that cool $75 for them this season. So I'm going with Venganza. But we got to move on now to the rival league, where we have Knights taking on Blaze. This is going to be another kind of crazy matchup here to talk about. And let's kind of bring it to you, Biscuit, here to start. What can you tell us about how the Knights have fared this season?
Well, the Knights started off, I can't remember the exact number. I think it was 7-0 or 8-0. Started off really hot with ABC, who was above average talent. And they ended up losing him after their first loss because he left. And they continued their dominance. I can't remember who they replaced him with, but they continued their dominance throughout the season and still only dropped one more game throughout the season, going 16-2 and posting a number 1 seed in a very impressive season.
Yeah, they've definitely, and something I want to add here, being the resident rival expert, is that the Knights have been slept on all season. They have had the best record in all of Nemesis history, 16-2, best winning percentage in the regular season, and they've actually been slept on just a little bit here. I feel like a lot of teams have been sleeping on them, but they've been solid here. So we'll have to see how they're going to perform tonight in this one, taking on Blaze here. They're still at the 1 seed. Blaze coming in as the 3 seed, both in that Eastern Conference. So we'll have to see. But speaking of Blaze, CMoney, what can you tell us about Blaze and how they did this season?
Well, Blaze, had the number 2 best record coming out of the rival series, but unfortunately they had to be in the same conference as Knights, so they ended up with the 3 seed here. And funny thing, they went 15-3. Out of their 4 game, they only had 4 games going into Game 5, and that's where they seemed to struggled because 3 of their losses all came out in Game 5, and it's just unfortunate for them. But crazy story here is Heck from Season 1 Prospect Finals MVP and champion here spent his entire offseason grinding and is now playing as a starter on the Blaze for tonight's finals. So he might just skip the Challenger final MVP and, the winner for that and just go straight for the rival one tonight.
All right, well, let's talk about the playoff run quick here. Bagels, what can you tell us about the run for both these teams?
Yeah, Knights, they only had to play 1 match so far and was able to kind of easily sweep Distortion in 4. And Distortion, they won their previous 2 series, but it didn't even look close against Knights. But as CMoney mentioned, Blaze, they came in as that 3rd seed due to conference. And that honestly didn't affect them because they were able to sweep Parallax and sweep Hydra back-to-back. The individual games seemed a little close, but still to pull off 2 4-0 sweeps in a row, I mean, it could be a super close matchup tonight.
It should be interesting for sure. Both these teams have had crazy runs, and they've been dominating so far. So we'll have to see. That matchup is going to be happening tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's the 3rd matchup of the night. So be ready for that one, 8 p.m. Eastern for Blaze versus Knights. And now we're going to quickly get into our predictions in this one. Bagels, who you got in this matchup, which we're actually going to be casting?
Yeah, I really hope it's a good series. I have it going to 7. Knights 4-3 over Blaze. I honestly think either team could take it, but strictly since I was Season 1 winner with the Knights, gotta go Knights bias. I have them in 7.
Okay, he's going for Knights in 7. CMoney, who you got in this one?
Honestly, I think Knights are just going to be a little too tough for them tonight, and it's going to come out with a Knights early lead, and Blaze isn't going to be able to bring it back. So I'm going Knights 4-2. It's going to be a little back and forth after Game 1 or maybe even Game 2 before it's too late for them.
Okay, Biscuit, who you got?
Going to change it up a little bit here and go with Blaze 4-2 victory over Knights. My boy Heck here is a playoff performer, and I know he'll show up because he did it last year to me and ruined my hopes and dreams. So he's probably going to do the same to Knights.
All right, so we'll have to see. And then lastly, my prediction here, I'm again siding with Bagels. Bagels is sniping all my predictions. I'm going to go Knights here, 4-3, Game 7. I think this is going to be a wild game. I think it's going to be crazy. I think the Knights a little bit slept on, but I think they're going to come out strong here and just enough to take down Blaze. But I think it's going to be super close here, and it's going to be a good one here. So we're going to head on to the Challenger League here. The Challenger League, we've got Drakes taking on Samurai. This one's been talked about all season about the Drakes. Samurai, still the 2 seed here, might be coming in a little bit as the underdog here. But we're gonna switch things up here. We don't want to hear what Biscuit has to say about the Drakes. Sorry, Biscuit. You can show us on the field, but let's hear what CMoney has to say about the Drakes regular season.
So Drake's coming out here with a 15-3, almost the highest win percentage out here. Close, but not quite enough. 9 sweeps in the season, which is just phenomenal amount of sweeps here. And they were unable to sweep Samurai though, so it's going to cause for, great gameplay tonight. And that record both times just so happened to be a 3-1. And they had a winning streak of 9 games at one point, which is just incredible. And this whole thing all started with a lucky draft pick of Icon dropping down so far And then obviously the chemistry of Roots and Biscuit coming up from last year off the Wyverns.
All right, interesting about the Drakes there. Biscuit, maybe you can tell us a little about the Samurai, your opponent for tonight. You'll be playing in this matchup on the Drakes. What can you tell us about your opponent, the scouting report? What you got for us?
I want to start off by saying I almost played for Samurai this season. We were almost teammates, so that's really cool. It's a fun little rivalry that we've had all season going on without a lot of people knowing. But they did end up with the season going 13-5, with their longest win streak being 5 games with 6 sweeps on the season, which when you compare it to Drake's is actually in the grand schemes pretty close. They're a really good team, really solid. They move well with each other. And if anyone in the league had a chance of taking down the Drake's team, it's by far the Samurai team. And it should definitely be a good matchup to watch. And hopefully Drake's pull it out because Biscuit biased.
Okay, Biscuit bias. Can it happen? Can it happen? We'll have to see if the Drakes can complete their dominating season or the Samurai are going to come back here. But let's talk about the playoff run here for these teams. Bagels, what can you tell us about the Challenger League playoffs so far for both these teams to get to this point?
Yeah, well, they haven't had many games under their belt, but Samurai, I believe they came out with a 4-1 win over Dissolved, and the games were somewhat close, few one-goal games here and there, but overall still able to dominate in the series. And then meanwhile, we have Biscuit on the Drakes, who told me that he was kind of scared. And I don't believe it for a second, because he came out in the first 3 games of the Ascension series. I think they scored at least 4 goals in every single game for those first 3 games. And the 4th game, they ended up losing. And the 5th one, they won. So they won 4-1 as well. And honestly, I don't even know. I just feel like Drakes are just going to dominate. I don't think Samurai has a chance.
All right. Well, we'll have to see. This matchup is happening at 7 p.m. Eastern, our second matchup of the night. It should be another good one. Both these teams coming in pretty hot in this one. Samurai, they had that really solid performance, and they'll be looking good coming to this one. But let's get into these predictions here. Bagels, I know you said it wasn't going to be really close here, but who you got in this one?
Yeah, and I have Drake's 4-1 over Samurai in this one. And unfortunately, there is a lot of org rivalry here because this is actually a rematch of the Season 1 Challenger Grand Finals. And that one was actually kind of close. However, I don't think this one is going to be as close. I hope so. I hope it's close. We always need content. But I think Biscuit and company are going to dominate Samurai 4-1 here.
Oh, okay. So he's going with Drake's 4-1. CMoney, who you got in this one?
I got a 4-2 here. I'm gonna give it to the Drakes though. I think being a series of 7, Samurai's gonna pull out a second win in there because they could only pull out 1 win in both 5 series. But I also heard that if somehow the Drakes go up 3-0, they like to do this weird man-to-man defense that you're not supposed to do in Rocket League, and I think that might give them a little momentum to get a second win if it turns out like that. I think either way, it's going to be a 4-2 Samurai.
Okay, and Biscuit, you're playing this one on the Drakes. Obviously, I think we might know your prediction, but why don't you tell us anyways?
Well, I know, shocker here. I'm going to pick the Drakes, but no sweep. We're going to keep the content alive and at least make it a 4-1 game so content's available for everybody to watch. You know what I mean?
Okay, fair enough. And then my prediction, I actually kind of switched this up at the last minute, a little bit more thinking on this one. I think it's gonna be a really close one here in this game. I'm going with the Drakes though in 7. I think it's gonna be a close game, and I think they're just gonna squeak it out here in 7. So I got Drakes in 7. I think Samurai are gonna surprise everyone, give them a run for their money, but I think the Drakes gonna be just a little bit too strong in this one and take it out here. So yeah, that's my prediction. Gotta give a quick shout out here. Enigma Sector, my guy, coming in proxy. Thank you so much for the resub, also the raid, and the 5 gifted subs. You're the man, proxy. Much appreciated. Awesome, man. Awesome. Appreciate it. But let's get into our last league quick. We've got a little bit more time before we got to get to the next matchup. But let's talk about it. The Prospect League, this matchup's coming up next here right after this pre-show. We got Melons taking on Vipers. Biscuit, what can you tell us about the Melons?
Well, the Melons, the meme team, as I would like to call them, because they use all the melon boost, dominated the Prospect League really this season. Very like the Drakes and the Knights, it was a very dominant season by certain teams. They only gave up 3 games all season to 3 different teams, which is a little weird. You would think maybe one team had their number, but there's just 3 times they ended up giving up a game. But they did finish the season on a 7-win streak, and they only went to 5 games once in all of that. 3 times all season. I don't know what that means.
They went to Game 5
Writing.
4 times, 3
Alright,
times all
but-
season, and lost once in a Game 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but they had a 7-win streak, 8 if you count their win over Origin. RIP.
Which we don't.
Salt. But they're coming in looking really hot and had a really good season as a whole. And yeah.
All right, well let's get to CMoney. What can you tell us about the Vipers here, CMoney, and how they did this regular season?
So actually, Vipers started out kind of average, middle of the pack people here. They were 3rd in their conference at one point, which is the last spot for playoffs. But coming down to the wire, as we know, Prospect being the craziest one out here, they moved up to 2nd seed, and then at the very end, or not 2nd seed, sorry, 2nd in conference, and then at the very end, last game of season, that win gave them the 1st seed in their conference to clinch the 2nd seed overall, and then from there, they're now in the finals now.
All right, yes, they are. So the Vipers, can they pull it off? Bagels, what can you tell us about the playoff run for both these teams to get to this point?
Yeah, Vipers, it was kind of a tumultuous end of the season there, but ultimately able to secure that 1st place in the conference. And it was a hell of a series against Aurora, who had to come out of that 3-4 matchup, narrowly inching their way towards a victory in a Game 7, and just barely able to secure that grand final spot. And then on the other end, sorry CMoney, but it was the sweep over Origin the Melons had, and it just, I hate to say it, but it looked easy.
It was easy. I'm not going to lie. There were some issues going into the game, but they did take it. Kudos to them.
So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen in this grand finals for Prospect League. I think I'm expecting Melons here, but it could be close.
Okay, well, let's preview this matchup quick here. This one's happening right after this pre-show in just about 7 minutes. It's going to be a banger matchup between these two teams, and we'll have to see how it's going to go. Let's get into these predictions real quick here. Bagels, who you taking here, Melons versus Vipers?
I got Melons 4-2 over Vipers here. I just think Melons is too dominant of a team. I think if Vipers have any chance of winning here, they're going to have to peak. I think they're going to have to play way better than they did against Aurora. They're just going to have to play just their equal to Melons here if they want any chance.
All right, then CMoney, who you taking in this one?
Got a 4-3 out here. I think it's going to Game 7. I think it's going to be competitive, and I think Vipers might be a little underestimated going into tonight. I mean, they usually come out firing, but I think they're like, we're in the finals, was easy, we got this, type of situation. So I'm going to give it to Vipers in that 4-3 there, Game 7.
Okay, you going Game 7 for CMoney. Biscuit, who you got in this one?
In my life, I've learned never bet against the house. And the house in this situation is Melons. I got to take Melons 4-1. I give Vipers a game, but it could easily be a 4-0.
Okay, Biscuit's got that. And then myself here, I'm actually going with the upset here in the first matchup of the night. I've got the Vipers 4-3, Game 7. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I know the Melons, they've been playing solid here, but I think the Vipers, I think they're going to have something up their sleeve here, and I think they're gonna pull it off here. So I'm going with the Vipers in this one. But yeah, that matchup's coming up here in a second. Any final thoughts here for you guys?
Hey, I'm just going to say, I appreciate you for joining me on the Prospect Mayhem of anybody can win at any time, no matter what rank you are.
All right. Well, we're gonna send it to break here. Get your friends, your family, grab some popcorn for tonight's action. It is gonna be crazy. And then sit back, relax, and enjoy some insane matches We're going to be back in just a few minutes for the Season 2 Prospect League Grand Finals as the Melons take on the Vipers. You do not want to miss it. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back.